You want to get your house listed for sale this summer in Houston and make the most money possible with the least amount of stress? You're going to need to hear these tips. All right, boys and girls, Grant in Houston here. I'm the team lead for Rothberg Realty Group, one of the top real estate teams in Greater Houston. Summer is always busy for us here in Houston when it comes time to buying and selling houses. I know you're thinking right now, I want to sell my house, I want to get it on the market, but I got a long time. But let's be honest about this. Selling a house is not like the most fun experience in the world. It's somewhere between like waiting 2 hours for a reservation at a restaurant and getting your teeth cleaned. And we could take some of that stress out by just planning and starting to work on the process today. And I get asked all the time by folks what they should be doing right now in preparation for that summer selling season. These are my absolute favorite tips. Before we launch into those, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any new videos we've got. The very first thing I would do to make sure you have a smooth selling experience this summer is have an in-person home valuation completed. You'd be absolutely stunned how few people have this done. But there's something really important to have a real estate professional who you trust come into your home, walk through it, and give you an honest opinion of what makes your house great and what things maybe you could stand to improve or spit shine a little bit to help make sure you get the best price you can. It kills me how often we get involved by a client later in the process after they've spent a bunch of time and money on things that really don't move the needle for them. And it kills me because then they come into the listing process already stressed financially or just emotionally, having put time and effort into things that don't matter. And a really skilled, experienced agent is going to want to hold back on giving you a number or a price range for the value of your home until they see it in person, because honestly, no two homes are identical. And your house's condition and unique features, things that make it special and uniquely yours, are important for determining what the value is going to be for that house and what's going to fetch on the open market. So involve a really skilled real estate expert early in that process to get an idea of what your home's value is going to be and to really narrow in on the things that make a difference for you when it comes time to list that house. The second area you want to focus on is the exterior of the house. And this one's kind of obvious. We all know the cliches about curb appeal and first impressions, but those things become cliches because they're true. So right away today, I'd be outside making sure my grass is cut. I'm working on building a nice edge on that lawn. People love that crisp edge. I'd be making sure it's fertilized and I've weeded that lawn. I've watered it. And you may see some of these patches where we have bigger trees, not enough light comes through, and you get those little bare patches, you know what I'm talking about? Go ahead and prune those trees and those bushes as well. Those things can look overgrown, kind of like a bad haircut, and that kind of communicates that someone's disheveled and maybe a little stressed out, maybe not clean. And the same thing happens when you pull up to a house where that lawn is overgrown or those trees and bushes are just scraggly and just full of extra limbs. You want to get those things pruned and cleaned up a little bit, get that light showing through, and get that nice vista of your home when someone pulls up to the house and sees it for the very first time. I also love, one of my favorite things is to have a driveway and sidewalk pressure washed. Over the years here in Houston, with the rains we get and all the pollen we have, that dirt builds up on that driveway and sidewalk. It just kind of looks old and worn out. And when you have that one house that's got that fresh power wash and that concrete looks crisp and new and shiny compared to the neighbors, it really helps your house pop quite a bit. As we work our way up to the house, having some fresh mulch in the flower beds and some actual flowers, those things make a big difference too. Even if it's just a quick bit of mulch we throw out there, get that black stuff or the brown stuff, not that fake red looking stuff. Something that looks natural and healthy and rich. Those things help to make a house, again, look like it's been cared for. And here's a little pro tip I want to let you in on. When people walk up to a house and they're getting ready to go into the home, unfortunately, they're always waiting for me to open up that door. And it takes time to fidget with the lockbox and all those kind of things to get the key. And when we're doing that, every time I notice our buyers, their heads are swiveling around. They got a 360-degree view of the house at that time. And they're looking at the front porch, they're looking back out at the yard, and they're looking at the things above them there on that entryway. So take a step out. I would go through on my front yard and I would stand there on my doorway. I'd look around and see, do I notice a bunch of wasp nests or spider webs, little egg sacs they leave sometimes here in Houston, and clean those things up, knock those down, spray them off, maybe do a little bit of fresh paint if stuff is peeling there, maybe you restain your front door if you have a wood door. All those things that a buyer is experiencing as they're waiting for the door to open can make a big difference for that first impression. The second place I'd focus on right now is I'd be looking to knock out those easy and obvious areas that need to be repaired. Here in Houston last year, we had just that crazy drought, and most of us, our foundations got dried out, and you probably have some sheetrock cracks somewhere in your home just because that house flexed so much with the dry soils. And those things, we know those are usually not a big deal, but It's amazing how often our buyers see them, and we're so programmed here to be afraid of foundation problems. People will see that and begin to think that it's a red flag of a deeper, more chronic issue. What I would do, assuming my foundation is actually in good shape, and if you have questions, you can have that checked by a professional, is I would make sure I come through there and have those things touched up and painted by a professional. So I'm not telegraphing areas of concern, which really are something somebody should be concerned about. Along those lines, I often see things like stains on a ceiling where you may have had a water leak in the past, or some wood rot areas. Just go through there and touch up and fix some of those things that are broken. When folks are coming through that house and they see some obvious things that need to be fixed that haven't been, just like with that exterior, they can't help but begin to think to themselves, what is this seller hiding? If the obvious things have been neglected, what things can I not see that are going to be a problem for me as well? And they begin to think about concerns about the ducts and the air conditioning and the plumbing and mold behind the walls and these kind of things. So an easy way you can go through and help maximize your return and minimize your stress on this transaction is just knock out some of the easy stuff. My favorite tip is coming up here in just a second, but number 3 is I would focus on depersonalizing and decluttering my home. We call this pre-moving or pre-packing for our house. Go through your closet and begin to pull those things off the rack and put them into boxes. And honestly, I mean, I know your ceramic clown figurine collection is unbelievable, or maybe you've got every Houston Astros bobblehead or all the championship rings over the years, and we love those things and they're fantastic, but buyers don't like seeing all that clutter and all that noise. So let's go ahead and pull those things down, pictures of your family. You may have your diplomas or things like that. Anything that really uniquely identifies the house as something that you currently live in. We want to pull those things out, those idiosyncrasies, and make the house seem more generic. My rule of thumb for this is think about the way it feels when you go visit a hotel. Every hotel, if it's a decent hotel, they feel clean and they feel relatively modern or well-maintained, and they feel homey, even though like literally the night before another human was sleeping in that place. Like, it's crazy when you think about it. But because they've decorated things in a fairly generic way, almost anyone can walk into that place and have a good night's sleep. And the same thing is the way you want to think about your house as you're walking through it. All those things that are unique about your personal life story are precious, and we want to box them up so that someone else can walk in, and instead of seeing your home, they see their future home. They want to be able to imagine themselves living in that place, and they need you to not be there to make that possible. And here's my final tip. This one is this is so easy to do. Folks, if you want to sell your house for the best price you possibly can, as quickly as possible, in the least amount of stress, clean your house. Please, clean your home. It's amazing how resilient buyers are when they encounter a house that maybe it needs some things to be fixed up, or maybe our price is a little wonky, or the drive is further away than they thought, or some things need to be updated in the home. People can tolerate that. But the one thing I see folks consistently just turn their nose up to is when a house is dirty. When it looks like someone has not lived in a sanitary way, has not cared about living in filth. It really bothers buyers, and it costs that seller more money than they could possibly imagine. So do yourself a favor and go through and have your home deep cleaned. Either do it yourself if you're good at that stuff, or just pay a professional to come through and get that nice clean house smell going on. You may have pet smells, and I promise you've got cats, your house smells like cat. If you've got like grease in the kitchen, I see fingerprints and that kind of grease marks on light switches or doorknobs and doors, or where kids touch along the walls. You see a lot of buildup in the grout in the tile in the bathrooms. And you guys know what I'm talking about. All this stuff is just gross. And just imagine if you went to a hotel and you saw it was in that kind of condition, would you be afraid of touching something? If so, just imagine what it's like to be a buyer and you're trying to convince them to buy your house and give you hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the buyer's afraid of touching the surfaces in the home. It doesn't work that way. So do yourself a favor and have your house professionally cleaned, make it look really, really good, really crisp. if you've done the stuff on the outside of the house, and you've done those easy repairs and fixes on the inside of the home, and you've done that decluttering, depersonalization, you've boxed up your stuff, and you've had your in-person home valuation done so you know your value, then do the final piece, add that cherry on top, and get that house clean, looking nice and good, so when a buyer walks in, your house stands out from the competition, and you get the most money you can as easily as possible. If you need help with any of the things we talked about, that in-person home valuation, getting some repairs done, getting a landscaper out, getting somebody to help you pressure wash the driveway, having a designer come help you pack up your things and stage your house, make sure you reach out to us here below. All the information is here below, and hit that subscribe button. We've got a massive list of amazing partners who can help us with these things, and I want to connect you with those. So let me know how we can help out and get your house listed here in Houston and make this just an absolute winning process for you this summer.